The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the penthouse balcony as Sade watched her fiancé, Emeka, kiss her best friend Chioma on the security footage playing on her phone. Her hands trembled as she rewound the video, taken just hours ago in her own Lagos mansion while she was supposed to be in London for business. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m., the same time Emeka had texted her, "Missing you, my love." If you think you've been betrayed before, wait until you hear what Sade discovers next. But first, let me ask you, have you ever trusted someone with your heart only to have them crush it for money? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because Sade's story will shock you. Sade, we need to talk. Emeka's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him enter the penthouse. Her private security had let him up, just like they always did. Just like she had instructed them to do for the man she thought loved her. She turned slowly, her Hermes dress flowing in the Lagos evening breeze. At 26, Sade Adebayo controlled a business empire worth over 2 billion naira. Oil, real estate, tech startups. Her late father had left her everything, and she had tripled it. But right now, she felt like a fool. Which part do you want to talk about, Emeka? She held up her phone, the video still playing. The part where you tell Chioma, "You're only marrying me for my money?" Or the part where you plan to divorce me after 1 year and take half my assets? Emeka's face went pale. At 32, he was Lagos society's golden boy. Handsome, charming, and apparently a master manipulator. Sade, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Her voice was ice cold. You said, and I quote, "The rich girl is so desperate for love, she'll believe anything. 1 year of marriage, then I'm set for life." That's not. Get out. She stepped closer to him. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. Emeka straightened his designer shirt. The mask was dropping. You think you're so superior, don't you? Sitting in your tower, throwing money around, expecting people to love you. This is business, Sade. Everything is business. Not anymore. She walked to her safe, input the code, and pulled out a thick folder. These are the contracts for the oil deal you've been begging me to include your company in. 20 million naira worth of business. She held the papers over the balcony railing. Watch them burn. She dropped the contracts, and they scattered in the wind, falling 20 floors to the Lagos traffic below. Emeka lunged forward. Are you insane? My company will be ruined. Should have thought about that before you decided to play games with a billionaire. Her phone buzzed. A text from Chioma. Girl, where are you? We need to discuss bridesmaid dress options. I can't wait to be part of your special day. 2 hearts. Sade showed Emeka the message. Your girlfriend is quite the actress. Sade, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. The only mistake was mine. She called her head of security. Marcus, please escort Mr. Emeka out of the building. He's no longer welcome here. 3 security guards appeared within minutes. As they led Emeka away, he turned back. You'll regret this, Sade. No one will ever love you for who you are. All they'll ever see is your money. The penthouse fell silent except for the distant sounds of Lagos traffic. Sade poured herself another glass of champagne and stared out at the city lights. For relationships in 3 years. For men who had pretended to love her while counting her money. Her phone rang. It was her mother. Sade, darling, how are the wedding preparations going? There's not going to be a wedding, Mama. A pause. What happened? The same thing that always happens. Oh, my dear. Her mother's voice was soft. Come home to the house in Ikoyi. Stay with us for a while. No, Mama. I need to figure this out on my own. After ending the call, Sade walked to her bathroom and stared at her reflection. Even with tears streaming down her face, she was beautiful. Her dark skin glowed under the lights. Her natural hair was perfectly styled, and her dress cost more than most people's annual salary. But none of that mattered if no one could see past it. She thought about her father's words before he died. Money is power, Sade, but it's also a prison. Make sure you hold the keys. Maybe it was time to disappear, to become someone else entirely, to find out if anyone could love Sade the person, not Sade the billionaire. Her phone buzzed with a notification from her property management company. They needed cleaners for the estate in Victoria Island, the one she rarely visited. The mansion had been her father's favorite, with sprawling gardens and a view of the lagoon. An idea began to form. A dangerous, desperate idea. What if she applied for the cleaning job? What if she became someone completely different? Someone poor, ordinary, invisible. She opened her laptop and began researching how to create a fake identity. New documents, a different background, a simple life. If she was going to find true love, she'd have to disappear first. 3 days later, armed with forged documents identifying her as Kemi Johnson, a struggling single woman from Mushin, Sade stood outside the gates of her own mansion, waiting to be interviewed for a minimum wage cleaning job. But as the security guard opened the gate, she saw someone she didn't expect. A tall, muscular man tending to the garden beds, his shirt soaked with sweat, singing a Yoruba folk song under his breath. He looked up and smiled at her, and something in his eyes made her heart skip a beat. What happens when a billionaire falls for her own employee? Will Sade's secret identity survive, or will her heart betray her before she finds true love? You won't believe what happens in the next chapter. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for the shocking continuation of Sade's story. You must be Kemi. The man walked toward her, wiping soil from his hands on a towel. I'm Tariq, the head gardener. Up close, he was even more handsome. His dark skin gleamed in the morning sun, and when he smiled, his whole face lit up. Sade had to remind herself to breathe. In all her years of dating wealthy men, none of them had ever made her feel this way with just a smile. Before we continue, I need to know, have you ever pretended to be someone you're not to find love? Because what Sade does next will either make you cheer for her or question everything about love and deception. Yes, I'm Kemi. Her voice came out shakier than she intended. She had practiced this conversation 100 times, but Tariq's presence was throwing her off balance. Mrs. Adunni, the head housekeeper, is waiting for you inside. Tariq gestured toward the mansion. But let me walk you to the door. These grounds can be confusing if you don't know your way around. As they walked through the gardens, Sade tried not to stare at the familiar paths. She had played here as a child, had her first kiss by the fountain, had scattered her father's ashes under the large baobab tree. But seeing it through Tariq's eyes, the way he pointed out which flowers were blooming, how he had arranged the plants to create natural shade, made her see her own home differently. You really love this place, she said. It's paradise. Tariq stopped beside a bed of hibiscus flowers. I've been working here for 2 years, and every day I discover something new. The owner never visits, though. Shame, really. This garden was made for someone who appreciates beauty. Sade's heart clenched. She had been too busy with business, too caught up in social events and failed relationships, to spend time in the one place that truly felt like home. Maybe the owner is just busy, she said quietly. Rich people always are. Tariq's tone wasn't bitter, just matter of fact. They have everything, but no time to enjoy it. I'd rather have my small room in Surelier and actually live my life than be trapped in a golden cage. They reached the mansion's staff entrance. Mrs. Adunni, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, was waiting with her arms crossed. You're 10 minutes late, she said without preamble. I'm sorry, Ma. Traffic was bad. There's always an excuse. Mrs. Adunni looked her up and down, taking in Sade's carefully chosen outfit, a simple dress that still cost more than a cleaner's monthly salary, though she'd removed all designer labels. Where did you work before? Sade's rehearsed answer came smoothly. I cleaned houses in Acacia. My last employer moved to Abuja. References? I don't have written ones. But I can clean anything, Ma. I really need this job. Mrs. Adunni studied her for a long moment. Your hands are too soft for someone who's been cleaning houses. Sade's heart stopped. She looked down at her manicured nails, her moisturized skin. Stupid. She should have thought of that. I use gloves, Ma, and I take care of my skin. Mrs. Adunni walked into the mansion, and Sade followed. The pay is 60,000 naira per month. You work 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. No phone calls during work hours. No gossiping with the other staff. And absolutely no contact with the owner if she ever visits. Is that clear? Yes, Ma. Good. You start tomorrow. Tariq, show her to the staff quarters. She'll be sharing a room with Funmi. As Mrs. Adunni walked away, Sade realized she was actually going to do this. She was going to live as a poor cleaner in her own mansion, sharing a room she'd never seen before, earning in a month what she used to spend on lunch. Tariq led her around the back of the mansion to a small building she'd never paid attention to. Inside were basic rooms with bunk beds and share bathrooms. It smelled of disinfectant and cooking oil. "I know it's not much," Tariq said, mistaking her shocked expression for disappointment. "But Mrs. Adebayo keeps everything clean, and the other staff are good people. We look out for each other." A young woman appeared from one of the rooms. She was about Sade's age, with bright eyes and a ready smile. "You must be Kemi. I'm Funmi. We're going to be roommates." She grabbed Sade's single bag, all part of the disguise. "Don't mind Mrs. Adebayo. She's tough but fair, and the work isn't too bad. The owner never comes here, so it's mostly just maintaining the place." "What's she like?" Sade asked. "The owner?" Funmi shrugged. "Rich. Young. They say she inherited everything from her father. Probably spoiled and selfish like most of them." Sade felt like she'd been slapped. "You don't know her personally, though." "Don't need to. I've worked for rich people before. They're all the same. They think their money makes them better than us." Tariq was still standing in the doorway. "That's not fair, Funmi. You can't judge someone you've never met. And you're too trusting, Tariq. Mark my words. If that woman ever shows up here, she'll treat us like we're invisible." Sade wanted to defend herself, but how could she without revealing who she was? Instead, she just nodded and tried to look interested as Funmi showed her around their tiny shared room. That evening, the staff gathered in the common area for dinner. There were 8 of them total: Mrs. Adebayo, Funmi, Tariq, 2 security guards, a cook, a driver, and a maintenance man. They shared simple food and talked about their families, their dreams, their struggles. Sade found herself drawn into conversations she'd never had before. Real conversations about real problems. Funmi was saving money to go back to school for nursing. Tariq was supporting his sick mother and 3 younger siblings. The security guard was trying to start his own business. "What about you, Kemi?" Tariq asked. "What's your dream?" Everyone turned to look at her. Sade realized she'd never been asked that question before. Not about business goals or investment opportunities, but about her actual dreams. "I want to find someone who loves me for who I am," she said honestly. "Not for what I have." The group laughed, but not unkindly. "That's everyone's dream," Funmi said. "But for people like us, love is a luxury we can't always afford." Later that night, lying on the bottom bunk while Funmi slept above her, Sade stared at the ceiling and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. She'd never worked a day of manual labor in her life. She'd never shared a bathroom or worried about having enough food. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was Tariq's smile. The way he'd looked at her, not like she was a meal ticket or a business opportunity, but like she was just a person worth talking to. Her phone, hidden under her pillow, buzzed with messages. Her mother, her business manager, her lawyer, all wanting to know where she was. The business world was probably already speculating about her sudden disappearance after the broken engagement. She turned the phone off. For the first time in her adult life, Sade Adebayo was truly invisible. Tomorrow, she would start her new life as Kemi the cleaner. She would scrub floors she used to walk on in designer heels. She would take orders from staff who used to bow when they saw her. And maybe, just maybe, she would find out what it felt like to be loved for who she was, not what she owned. But as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing with fire. How long could she keep up this deception? And what would happen when the truth inevitably came out? Will Sade's disguise hold up under the pressure of manual labor? Can a billionaire really hide among her own staff? And what happens when Tariq starts to suspect something? Hit that subscribe button, because next chapter will reveal secrets that will change everything. Sade's hands were bleeding. After 3 hours of scrubbing bathroom tiles with a brush that felt like sandpaper, her soft palms had developed painful blisters. She sat on the bathroom floor of what used to be her father's study, trying not to cry. "Kemi, what's taking so long in there?" Mrs. Adebayo's voice echoed down the hallway. "You think being rich protects you from everything? Wait until you see what happens when a billionaire has to clean her own toilets. But first, have you ever had to hide who you really are? Drop a comment, because Sade is about to learn that money can't buy you everything. Coming, Mom. Sade called back, struggling to her feet. Every muscle in her body ached. She'd been working for 6 hours, and she still had 2 more to go. She stumbled into the hallway with her bucket of dirty water, nearly colliding with Tariq. He was carrying a toolbox, probably heading to fix something in the garden. Are you okay? He noticed immediately that something was wrong. You look pale. I'm fine. She tried to hide her bleeding hands, but Tariq caught her wrist gently. These are bad. His touch was soft, careful. When did you last clean professionally? Sade's mind raced. It's been a while. Maybe I'm out of practice. Tariq studied her face. There was something in his eyes, not suspicion exactly, but curiosity. Wait here. He returned with a first aid kit and antiseptic. Without asking permission, he began cleaning her wounds. His hands were rough from garden work, but surprisingly gentle. You don't talk like other cleaners, he said quietly. Sade's heart jumped. What do you mean? Your English is too perfect. And yesterday, when Mrs. Adunni was explaining the work, you looked confused. Not about the instructions, but about why she was being so harsh. Like you'd never been talked to that way before. Maybe I've been lucky with employers. Maybe. Tariq applied bandages to her palms. Or maybe you're not who you say you are. Before Sade could respond, Funmi appeared around the corner. There you are. Mrs. Adunni is looking for you. She says the master bedroom windows still have streaks. Sade's stomach dropped. The master bedroom, her own bedroom. She hadn't been in there since the night she caught Emeka cheating. All her personal items were still scattered around. I'll finish here, Tariq told Funmi. Kemi needs a break. She needs to work, Funmi replied. We all have jobs to do. But Tariq was already taking the cleaning supplies from Sade's hands. I said I'll finish. Funmi looked between them suspiciously. Since when do you clean bedrooms? Since today. After Funmi left, muttering about people not minding their own business, Tariq turned back to Sade. Why don't you rest for a few minutes? I'll handle the bedroom. You don't understand. I need this job. No, you don't. Tariq's voice was quiet but certain. I've worked with desperate people before. You're not desperate. You're something else. Panic rose in Sade's chest. I don't know what you mean. Your shoes cost more than Funmi makes in 3 months. Your phone, the one you think nobody noticed, is the latest iPhone. And yesterday, when you saw the garden, you knew exactly where everything was. Like you'd been here before. Sade felt trapped. I'm not going to report you, Tariq said. But I am curious. Who are you really? Before she could answer, the sound of expensive car engines filled the air outside. Sade looked out the window, and her blood turned to ice. 3 black Mercedes sedans were pulling up the circular driveway. She recognized the license plate of the first one. It belonged to her mother. No, she whispered. What's wrong? Tariq followed her gaze. Who are they? Sade watched as her mother stepped out of the first car, followed by her lawyer, Mr. Adebayo, and her business manager, Kemi Okafor. They all looked grim and determined. Family emergency, she lied. I have to go. She ran toward the staff quarters, her heart pounding. If her mother saw her dressed as a cleaner, everything would be ruined. But more than that, she couldn't bear the thought of Tariq learning the truth this way. Not by seeing her surrounded by luxury and lawyers. Behind her, she heard Mrs. Adunni greeting the visitors. Mrs. Adebayo, what a surprise. Is Miss Sade with you? That's what we're here to find out. Her mother's voice carried across the grounds. We haven't heard from her in 4 days. Her phone is off, and she's missed 3 important board meetings. Sade reached the staff building and grabbed her bag from the shared room. She had to get out before. Kemi. Funmi appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? I have to leave. Family emergency. But Mrs. Adunni will fire you if you leave without notice. I can't help that. Sade pushed past Funmi and headed for the back exit, the one that led to the service road. But as she reached the door, Tariq appeared. Running away? He asked. I told you. Family emergency. Those people aren't your family. Tariq blocked her path. They're looking for someone named Sade. And judging by your reaction, I'm guessing that someone is you. Sade's shoulders slumped. There was no point lying anymore. Please, just let me go. Not until you tell me the truth. Who are you? From the main house, they could hear Mrs. Adunni calling for all the staff to gather. Her mother's voice was getting closer. I'm sorry, Sade whispered. I'm so sorry I lied to you. Are you married? In some kind of trouble? No, it's worse than that. What could be worse than? I'm rich, Tariq. I'm very, very rich. This mansion, I own it. Those people looking for me, they work for me. And you, her voice broke. You're going to hate me when you find out the truth. Tariq stared at her for a long moment. You're Sade Adebayo. It wasn't a question. The realization was dawning on his face, along with something that looked like hurt. The spoiled billionaire who never visits her own home, he said quietly. The one Funmi said treats people like they're invisible. That's not who I am. Then who are you? His voice was rising. Because the woman I've been talking to for 2 days, the one I thought was genuine and kind, she doesn't exist, does she? She's just another rich person's game. Tariq, please. Miss Sade. Mrs. Adunni's voice came from right outside the building. Your mother says you might be here. Tariq looked at Sade one more time, his eyes full of disappointment and something deeper, betrayal. Then he stepped aside. Go, he said. Go back to your real life. Sade hesitated for one more second, wanting desperately to explain, to make him understand. But footsteps were approaching the door, and there was no time. She ran. Behind her, she heard Mrs. Adunni enter the building. Tariq, have you seen a young woman? About this tall, very pretty? No, Ma, Tariq replied. I haven't seen anyone like that. But Sade knew he was protecting her secret, not her. And as she climbed over the back fence of her own property, running away from the only place she'd felt truly happy in years, she realized that Emeka had been right about one thing. No one would ever love her for who she really was. The Billionaire's cover is blown, but will Tariq keep her secret? And what happens when Sade realizes that running away might cost her the only real love she's ever found? The next chapter will break your heart. Don't forget to like and subscribe for this emotional roller coaster. 2 weeks later, Sade sat in the boardroom of Adebayo Industries, listening to quarterly reports and pretending to care about profit margins. The bandages were gone from her hands, but she could still feel the ghost of Tariq's gentle touch when he'd cleaned her wounds. Miss Adebayo, her CFO, was staring at her. The real estate acquisition in Abuja. Whatever you think is best, she said absently. Her phone buzzed. A message from her head of security. Estate staff asking about your cleaner identity. What should we tell them? Tell them she quit, Sade typed back. And increase everyone's salary by 20%. If you've ever lost someone you love because of a lie, you'll understand what Sade is going through. But sometimes the truth has consequences we never expect. Before we continue, let me ask, would you forgive someone who lied about their identity for love? After the meeting, Sade drove to her penthouse and poured herself a glass of wine she couldn't taste. Legos stretched out below her through floor-to-ceiling windows. But all she could think about was a small staff room and the sound of Tariq's laughter during dinner conversations she'd never have again. Her mother knocked on the door. Without waiting for permission, she entered with her usual elegance and disapproval. You look terrible, darling. Thank you for the honesty, Mama. I've arranged 3 dinner dates for you this month. Suitable men from good families. No, Sade, you can't hide in here forever. What you did, disappearing like that, pretending to be a cleaner, it was beneath you. Sade turned from the window. Was it? Because for 2 days, I felt more like myself than I have in years. You felt like a servant because you were playing dress up. Her mother sat down, her designer dress arranged perfectly. Real servants don't have the luxury of quitting when things get difficult. I didn't quit because it was difficult. I quit because Sade stopped herself. How could she explain Tariq to her mother? The way he'd looked at her when he realized she'd been lying, the hurt in his eyes, the disappointment that cut deeper than any breakup she'd ever experienced. Because of the gardener, her mother finished. Yes, I heard about that. From who? Mrs. Adunni told me everything. How you were asking about him. How he helped you with your injuries. How he was there when we arrived. Her mother's voice was gentle but firm. Sade, darling, that man was being kind to who he thought you were, not who you actually are. Maybe that's a problem. The problem is that you're letting fantasy interfere with reality. You have responsibilities, a company to run, people depending on you, a legacy to maintain. Sade poured another glass of wine. What if I don't want the legacy anymore? then you'd be spitting on your father's grave. The words hit like a physical blow. Sade's father had built everything from nothing, had sacrificed his health and happiness to give her the opportunity she had. How could she even think of walking away? But late that night, alone with her thoughts, Sade found herself researching Tariq online. She found his social media profiles, photos of him with his family, his mother in a hospital bed surrounded by flowers he'd brought her, posts about night school classes he was taking, his dream of becoming a landscape architect. She learned that he sent money home to his village every month, that he'd build a well for his community with his savings, that children gathered around him in photos like he was their favorite uncle. This was the man whose trust she'd broken. The man who'd looked at her with genuine affection when he thought she was just Kimmy, a struggling cleaner who needed kindness. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Miss Sade. The voice was familiar but uncertain. This is Funmi, from the estate. Sade's heart jumped. Funmi? How did you get this number? I asked Mrs. Adunni. She said I could call you about Kimmy. What about her? She left some things behind. Personal things. And Funmi hesitated. I think Tariq knows who she really was. What do you mean? He's been asking questions. About her hands, her clothes, the way she talked. And yesterday, I saw him looking at newspapers, reading about you. Miss Sade, I think he figured it out. Sade closed her eyes. What else did he say? He asked if I thought rich people could ever really understand what it's like to be poor. And when I said no, he got this sad look on his face and said, maybe some of them are trying to learn. After Funmi hung up, Sade sat in her penthouse and made a decision that would either ruin her life or save it. She was going back. The next morning, Sade drove to the estate. Not in her usual Mercedes, but in a borrowed Honda she'd convinced her driver to let her use. She parked outside the gates and called Mrs. Adunni. I want to hire Kimmy back, she said. Miss Sade, with all due respect, that girl caused nothing but problems. She quit without notice. I'll pay double her salary, and I want to meet with all the staff personally. It's time I got to know the people who take care of my property. An hour later, Sade stood in the garden where she'd first seen Tariq, but now she was herself, designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and all the armor wealth provided. The staff stood before her in a line, their eyes downcast respectfully. All except Tariq, who looked directly at her with an expression she couldn't read. I want to thank all of you for your excellent work, Sade began, her prepared speech feeling hollow in her mouth. I know I haven't been present, and I want to change that. She talked about raises, about improvements to their living quarters, about her plans to visit the estate more often. The staff nodded politely, but she could feel their skepticism. When she finished, they began to disperse. But Tariq remained. Miss Adebayo, he said formally, may I speak with you privately? Her heart hammered against her ribs. Of course. When they were alone, he studied her face for a long moment. You're going to ask me not to tell anyone about Kimmy, he said. Are you? I already haven't. The question is why. Sade took a shaky breath. Because she was the first real thing I'd felt in years. Because when you looked at her, you saw someone worth caring about. And because she met his eyes. Because I think I fell in love with you in 2 days, and I don't know how to live with that. Tariq was quiet for so long that Sade wondered if she should just leave. Then he spoke. Kimmy asked me what my dream was. I told her I want to study landscape architecture, maybe design gardens for people who could appreciate them. He looked around at the beautiful grounds he maintained. But what I didn't tell her was that I'd been watching this place for 2 years, wondering what kind of person could own something so beautiful and never enjoy it. And now you know. Do I? Tariq stepped closer. Because I've met Sade Adebayo now. Rich, powerful, used to getting what she wants. But I also met Kimmy. Vulnerable, curious, willing to bleed for honest work. He paused. Which one of you am I talking to right now? Before Sade could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID made her blood run cold. Emeka, I need to take this, she told Tariq, but he was already walking away. Sade, darling. Emeka's voice was smooth as silk. We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. I think we do. You see, I know where you've been the last few weeks. Playing house with the help. Very interesting story. Sade's world tilted. What do you want? The same thing I always wanted. You. Your money. A wedding. His laugh was cold. Only now I have insurance. Imagine what the business press would do with photos of Lagos's richest woman scrubbing toilets and flirting with the gardener. The scandal would destroy you. The billionaire's secret is about to become front-page news, but Emeka's blackmail is just the beginning. What happens when the man who already broke her heart discovers her deepest vulnerability? Next chapter will reveal the shocking truth. Hit that like button and subscribe because this story is about to explode. You're bluffing, Sade said into the phone, but her voice betrayed her fear. Am I? Emeka's laughter echoed through the garden. Check your email. Sade opened her phone with trembling hands. The message contained 3 photos. Her in the cleaner's uniform, her and Tariq talking by the flowers, and a close-up of her bandaged hands as he treated her wounds. The timestamp showed they were taken yesterday. When you think you've escaped your past, it has a way of hunting you down. But what Sade doesn't know is that Emeka's betrayal is about to cost her everything she cares about. Have you ever been blackmailed by someone you trusted? Drop your thoughts, because this gets darker than you can imagine. How did you get these? I have friends on your security team, darling. Very expensive friends, but worth every naira. Emeka's voice was smooth with victory. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take me back. We're going to have a very public reconciliation, followed by the wedding of the decade. And your little gardener boyfriend? He's going to disappear. What do you mean, disappear? Nothing violent, don't worry. Just a better job offer in another state. Far away from here. Far away from you. Sade felt sick. Why are you doing this? Because you embarrassed me. Because you destroyed my business deal. And because you need to learn that people like me don't just go away quietly. His tone turned deadly serious. You have 24 hours to decide, Sade. Take me back, or watch your reputation and your little love story burn together. The line went dead. Sade stood in the garden, surrounded by the beauty Tariq had created, and felt her world crumbling around her. Through the window of the mansion, she could see him inside, talking with Mrs. Adebayo about something. He looked serious, focused, completely unaware that his life was about to be destroyed because of her. She drove home in a daze, her mind racing through options. She could pay Emeka off, but he'd never stop demanding more. She could go public herself, but the scandal would destroy not just her reputation, but her business empire. Thousands of people depended on her companies for their livelihoods. But the worst part was imagining Tariq's reaction when he learned the truth from newspaper headlines instead of her own lips. Back in her penthouse, Sade called her head of security. Marcus, I need to know who's been taking unauthorized photos on the estate. I'll investigate immediately, Miss Sade. And Marcus? I need complete files on everyone who has access to the property. Staff, contractors, delivery people, everyone. Next, she called her lawyer. Mr. Adebayo, what are my legal options if someone is blackmailing me with private photographs? Depends on how they obtain the photos and what they're asking for, he replied carefully. Are you in trouble, Sade? I might be. Then we need to meet. Tonight. But before Sade could respond, her doorbell chimed. Through the security monitor, she saw someone she didn't expect. Tariq. He stood at her door in his work clothes, holding a small potted plant. Even through the camera, she could see the determination in his eyes. Let him up, she told security. When the elevator doors opened, Tariq stepped in her penthouse and stopped short. The luxury was overwhelming. Original artwork on the walls, furniture that cost more than his annual salary, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the entire city. Nice place, he said quietly. How did you get my address? Mrs. Adebayo gave it to me. She said you wanted to get to know your staff better. He held out the plant. It's a peace lily. It means rebirth and new beginnings. Sade took the plant with shaking hands. Tariq, there are things you don't understand. I understand that you lied to me. I understand that you're rich enough to buy and sell people like me 1,000 times over. And I understand that for some reason, you thought pretending to be poor would help you find love. It's more complicated than that. Is it? He walked to the windows and stared out at the city lights. Because from where I stand, it looks like a rich woman got bored and decided to play dress up with the help. That's not what happened. Sade set the plant on her coffee table and moved closer to him. I was engaged to someone who was only with me for my money. I found out he was cheating, that he was planning to divorce me after a year and take half my assets. I was heartbroken, Tariq. I was tired of being seen as a walking bank account. Tariq turned to face her. So you decided to trick someone else instead? I decided to find out if anyone could love me for who I am underneath all this. She gestured around the penthouse. And for 2 days you did. I love Kemi, a woman who doesn't exist. She does exist. She's standing right here. Tariq shook his head. Kemi struggled to pay rent. Kemi worked until her hands bled because she needed the job. Kemi understood what it meant to worry about money, to count every naira. You can't just put on old clothes and pretend to understand that life. You're right, Sade said quietly. I can't, but I could try to learn. By lying, by caring about someone enough to want to be worthy of them. They stared at each other across the expensive space, the silence heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Tariq spoke. Why are you telling me this now? What changed? Sade's phone buzzed. A text from Emeka. 20 hours left, darling. She looked at Tariq and made a decision that would either save or destroy them both. Because someone's trying to blackmail me with photos of us together. And I realized that I'd rather lose everything than lose you to another lie. Tariq's expression shifted from anger to concern. What kind of photos? Sade showed him Emeka's message. As Tariq studied the images, his jaw tightened. Who took these? My ex-fiancé. He is someone on the inside. What does he want? Me. Marriage. My money. And you gone. Tariq handed her phone back. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Sade's voice broke. If I don't give him what he wants, he'll destroy my reputation. My companies will suffer. People will lose their jobs. But if I do, you'll be trapped with someone you don't love. And you'll be forced to leave Lagos. He's already arranged a job offer for you in Kaduna. Tariq was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to her kitchen and filled a glass with water for the peace lily. In my village, he said, there's a saying, the tree that wants to grow tall must sink its roots deep. You can't grow anything real on false ground, Sade. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time to tell the truth. All of it. You don't understand what that would cost. And you don't understand what lies cost. Tariq set the plant in better light. I've been thinking about this since yesterday. About Kemi and Sade and who you really are. You know what I realized? Sade shook her head. The woman who bandaged her bleeding hands and kept working, that was real. The woman who listened to Funmi's dreams and asked about my mother, that was real. The woman who sat with us during dinner and laughed at Abdul's terrible jokes, that was real too. But the lies were about money, not about your heart. Tariq moved closer. I've been angry at you for lying about being poor. But I've been lying too. About what? About falling in love with you in 2 days. It was 2 hours, Sade. The moment you smiled at me in the garden. Before Sade could respond, her phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Sade, darling, turn on Channel 7 News. Right now. Sade grabbed the remote with trembling hands. The local evening news was showing a breaking story. Adebayo, heiress missing. Family offers reward. The reporter was standing outside the estate. Sources close to the family say Sade Adebayo has been suffering from exhaustion following her recent broken engagement. Anyone with information about her whereabouts is asked to contact authorities. Oh God, Sade whispered. He's moving faster than I thought. On screen, the reporter continued. In related news, we've received unconfirmed reports that Miss Adebayo may have been spotted working at various locations around Lagos under an assumed identity, though these claims remain unsubstantiated. Tariq grabbed her hand. He's forcing your hand, making it look like you're having a breakdown, so when he rescues you, he looks like a hero. And when the photos surface, it'll look like I was having some kind of mental episode. No one will take me seriously, unless we control the narrative first. Sade looked at him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we tell your story before he tells his version. Tariq's eyes were bright with determination. But we tell it together. The billionaire and the gardener are about to make a choice that will shock Lagos society forever. But when Emeka discovers their plan, will they survive his revenge? Next chapter will blow your mind. Smash that like button and subscribe, because you won't believe what happens next. You want to do what? Sade's mother nearly dropped her teacup. They were sitting in the penthouse living room, Sade, her mother, Tariq, and her lawyer, Mr. Adebayo. It was 3 in the morning, but no one was thinking about sleep. A joint press conference, Sade repeated. Tomorrow morning. I tell the truth about everything. The disguise, the reasons behind it, and my relationship with Tariq. When love and money collide, someone always gets hurt. But what Sade is about to do will either make her the most romantic woman in Lagos or destroy her family's legacy forever. Have you ever risked everything for love? Comment below because this decision will change everything. Absolutely not, her mother said. The scandal would be catastrophic. Our family's reputation. Our family's reputation is built on lies, Sade interrupted. Daddy always said business was about relationships, about treating people fairly. When did we forget that? Mr. Adebayo cleared his throat. Sade, from a legal standpoint, this could work. If you control the narrative, present it as a love story rather than a deception. It wasn't a deception, Tariq said quietly. It was someone trying to find out if they were worthy of love. Sade's mother turned her sharp gaze on him. And you, young man, what do you get out of this? Besides 15 minutes of fame and access to my daughter's fortune? Mama, Sade protested, but Tariq didn't flinch. I get the chance to prove that some people can love your daughter for who she is, not what she owns. And maybe, if I'm lucky, she'll give me the chance to earn her trust back. Trust? Her mother laughed bitterly. She lied to you for days. How can you trust her? Because she's sitting here at 3 in the morning, planning to risk everything she's built, rather than marry a man she doesn't love to keep me safe. Tariq looked directly at Sade's mother. How many of the men you tried to set her up with would do the same for her? The room fell silent. Finally, Mr. Adebayo spoke up. If we're doing this, we need to move fast. Emeka won't wait much longer, and once those photos hit the media his way, we lose all control. What about the staff? Sade asked. They'll be dragged into this too. I already spoke to them, Tariq said. Mrs. Adunni, Funmi, the others. They're willing to support you publicly if needed. Why would they do that? Because in 2 days of working alongside them, you show them more respect than most employers show in years. And because, Tariq smiled. They liked Kemi. Sade's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Saw the news report. Interesting strategy. But I still have the photos. You have 12 hours. He knows, Sade said, showing them the message. Then we move now, Mr. Adebayo decided. I'll call the major media outlets. We hold a press conference at 8 a.m. And if this destroys everything, Sade's mother asked. Then we rebuild, Sade said firmly. But we rebuild honestly. By 6 a.m., word had spread through Lagos social media like wildfire. Hashtag Sade story was trending, with wild speculation about what the heiress would reveal. Outside the venue, the garden of the Victoria Island estate, news crews were setting up equipment while security kept crowds back. Sade stood in her childhood bedroom, staring at herself in the mirror. She'd chosen a simple dress, minimal jewelry, and natural makeup. Next to her reflection, she could see Tariq adjusting his tie. The first tie he'd ever owned, bought that morning with money he'd saved for months. You don't have to do this, she told him. Once this goes public, your life will never be the same. Neither will yours. I'm used to attention. You're not. Tariq turned from the mirror. Sade, I've spent my whole life invisible. Taking care of gardens that no one notices, supporting a family that no one cares about, dreaming dreams that no one thinks matter. For 2 days, you saw me. Really saw me. If standing beside you means the whole world sees me too, I can handle it. A knock at the door interrupted them. It's time, Mr. Adebayo called. They walked to the garden together, hand in hand. The sight that greeted them was overwhelming. Dozens of reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. Sade felt Tariq's hand tighten in hers as they took their places behind the podium. Good morning, Sade began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. My name is Sade Adebayo, and I have a story to tell you. She told them everything. About her broken engagement, her desperate desire to find real love, her decision to disguise herself as a cleaner. She talked about learning to work with her hands, about sharing meals with people who struggled to make ends meet, about discovering that the most valuable things in life couldn't be bought. I met Tariq Okafor on my first day, she continued, looking at him with love shining in her eyes. He didn't know who I was, so he saw who I am. He helped me when I was hurt, included me when I was lonely, and treated me with kindness when he had no reason to expect anything in return. The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. Some of you will say I was foolish, that I was playing games with people's lives. You might be right, but I learned something important. Love isn't about what you can give someone. It's about who you become when you're with them. She gestured to the staff standing nearby. Mrs. Adunni, Funmi, the security guards, all of them dressed in their best clothes. These people work harder than I ever have. They support families, chase dreams, and find joy in simple things. For 2 days, I was honored to be one of them. Tariq stepped forward to the microphone. My name is Tariq Okafor. I'm a gardener and a student. I fell in love with a woman named Kemi who cleaned bathrooms and worried about rent money. When I learned Kemi was also Sade, I was angry. I felt betrayed. But then I realized something. He turned to Sade. Rich or poor, powerful or powerless, you're still the woman who listened when I talked about my dreams. You're still the woman who asked about my sick mother. You're still the woman who cried when Funmi told us about her struggles to go back to school. That's who I fell in love with. Not your disguise, not your money. You. The reporters erupted in questions, but before anyone could speak, a commotion started at the back of the crowd. Emeka was pushing through, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. Very touching, he called out, his voice carrying across the garden. But there are some details missing from this fairy tale. He held up his phone, and suddenly the photos appeared on a large screen behind him. Sade in her cleaner's uniform, her and Tariq's intimate moments, her bleeding hands. This isn't a love story, Emeka announced. This is a billionaire having a breakdown and manipulating an innocent man for her own entertainment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sade felt Tariq step protectively closer to her. Tell them, Sade. Emeka continued, his smile cold and calculating. Tell them how you hired private investigators to research Tariq before you ever met him. Tell them how you orchestrated this entire situation to make yourself look sympathetic after I exposed your family's business practices. That's not true, Sade began. Isn't it? Emeka pulled out a folder. I have documents here showing payments to investigation firms, background checks on estate staff, and communications with your PR team about rehabilitating your image after the broken engagement. The crowd turned to stare at Sade, confusion and suspicion replacing the sympathy they'd shown moments before. Even some reporters looked skeptical now. Tariq grabbed the microphone. You want to know what's true? His voice was angry now, powerful. What's true is that this man, he pointed at Emeka, has been stalking and harassing the woman I love for weeks. What's true is that he's trying to blackmail her into marriage. And what's true is that he's so desperate to control her that he's willing to destroy both our lives to do it. Prove it, Emeka challenged. I will, a new voice said from the crowd. Everyone turned to see Funmi pushing forward, holding her own phone. I recorded our conversation yesterday, she announced. The one where you offered me 50,000 naira to say that Miss Sade had been cruel to the staff. The one where you admitted to bribing security guard for photographs. The one where you said you'd make sure Tariq disappeared if I didn't cooperate. Emeka's confident expression faltered. You can't trust the word of a servant. Actually, we can, said a voice from the press area. A woman in a sharp suit stepped forward. I'm Detective Aisha Bello from the Lagos State Police. Mr. Emeka, you're under arrest for blackmail, harassment, and attempted extortion. As police moved in to arrest Emeka, he looked directly at Sade with pure hatred. This isn't over. You think you could just walk away from people like me? I'll destroy you both. But his threats were cut short as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The crowd buzzed with excitement and confusion as Emeka was led away. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, and social media exploded with updates. Through it all, Sade and Tariq stood together, hands clasped, facing the storm they'd chosen rather than the cage they'd rejected. The truth is out, but Emeka's final threat promises more danger ahead. Can love survive public scrutiny and family disapproval? Next chapter will reveal the shocking aftermath. Don't forget to like and subscribe for this incredible love story. The headlines the next morning were brutal. Billionaire's deception, love, or publicity stunt. The rich girl who cried poor. Adebayo heiress, romantic or manipulative? Sade sat in her penthouse, scrolling through news articles and social media comments while Tariq made breakfast in her kitchen, a sight that would have seemed impossible a week ago. Sometimes doing the right thing makes everything worse before it gets better. But when the whole world is watching your love story, how do you know what's real? Let me ask you, would you choose love over public opinion? Because Sade is about to learn that the truth doesn't always set you free. Listen to this one, she called to Tariq. Rich people will do anything for attention, even pretend to be poor. This is an insult to everyone who actually struggles to make ends meet. And this one, Tariq replied from the kitchen, reading his own phone. The gardener is obviously a gold digger who saw an opportunity and took it. Are you having second thoughts? Sade asked quietly. Tariq appeared in the doorway with 2 plates of eggs and toast. About what? About us. About this whole mess. Are you? I asked first. Tariq set the plates on the coffee table and sat beside her. Sade, yesterday, I watched you risk everything you've built to protect me from a man who wanted to hurt us both. The woman who did that isn't the same person these headlines are describing. But what if they're right? What if I was just playing games? Were you? Sade thought about it seriously. When I put on that uniform the first time, I thought it would be easy like method acting or something. But when I saw you in the garden, when you smiled at me, she shook her head. Everything changed. It stopped being about proving a point and started being about you. Then that's all that matters. But even as he said it, Sade's phone was ringing with calls from business partners, board members, and investors. The stock price of Adebayo Industries had dropped 15% overnight. Her mother arrived at noon, looking like she'd aged 10 years. The consortium is calling for an emergency meeting, she announced without preamble. 3 board members want to discuss your fitness to run the company. On what grounds? Erratic behavior, poor judgment, bringing scandal to the family name. Her mother sat down heavily. Sade, they're talking about a vote of no confidence. Tariq, who had been quietly working on his laptop in the corner, looked up. What does that mean? It means they could remove me as CEO, Sade explained. Force me out of my own company. Can they do that? If they have enough votes, yes. Sade's mother turned to Tariq. This is what your love story has cost her. Everything her father built, everything she's worked for. Mama, that's not fair, isn't it? Her mother's voice was sharp with grief and anger. You've thrown away your birthright for a man you've known for a week. I've thrown away lies for someone who sees me as I really am. And what will you see when you're both living in his 1-room apartment in Surulere? When you can't afford the lifestyle you've always known? When the reality of different worlds sets in? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sade looked at Tariq, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in his eyes. Maybe your mother is right, he said quietly. Tariq, no, listen to me. He closed his laptop and moved to face her. I've been thinking about this all morning. What kind of life can we really have together? You're worth billions. I make 60,000 naira a month. You went to university in London. I'm taking night classes at a local polytechnic. None of that matters. It does matter. Your mother is right about one thing. I can't give you the life you're used to. And you can't pretend to be someone you're not forever. Sade felt panic rising in her chest. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we're being naive. Maybe love isn't enough. Before Sade could respond, her phone buzzed with a call from her head of security. Miss Sade, you need to see the news. Channel 7. They turned on the television to see a breaking news report. The anchor was standing outside Adebayo Industries headquarters. In a surprising turn of events, several employees of Adebayo Industries have come forward to support their CEO. Let's go to our reporter on the scene. The screen showed a crowd of people holding signs. Sade sees us. Real love, real leader, we stand with our boss. I'm here with Martha Ogundamu, who has worked for Adebayo Industries for 15 years, the reporter said, interviewing a middle-aged woman in the crowd. Miss Sade has always treated us fairly, Martha said into the microphone. She knows our names, asks about our families, and when my daughter was sick last year, she personally paid for the surgery. If she needed to pretend to be poor to find someone who loves her for her heart, then I understand that. Another employee stepped forward. The company stock might be down today, but our loyalty to Miss Sade isn't. She's a good boss and a good person. We don't care who she loves as long as she's happy. The scene switched to show similar demonstrations outside several Adebayo properties, with employees and even some customers showing support. Sade stared at the screen in amazement. I didn't know they were doing this. Her phone rang. This time it was Mr. Adebayo. Sade, you need to get down to headquarters immediately. The board meeting has been moved up to 2 o'clock. Why? Because 3 more board members just resigned in protest over the vote of no confidence. They said they refused to be part of removing a CEO whose only crime was falling in love. Sade looked at Tariq, then at her mother. I have to go. I'm coming with you, Tariq said. Absolutely not, her mother protested. This is family business. He is family, Sade said firmly, and I'm going to need all the support I can get. An hour later, Sade stood in the boardroom where her father had once commanded respect and admiration. Now, 5 of the 9 board members sat around the polished table, their faces ranging from disapproving to openly hostile. Sade, began Mr. Ogbonna, the oldest member and her father's former friend. We've called this meeting because your recent actions have raised serious concerns about your judgment and leadership capabilities. My judgment in exposing a man who was trying to blackmail me. Your judgment in creating a public spectacle that has damaged our company's reputation, replied Mrs. Fashola, who controlled several investment firms. The stock price has dropped significantly. Our international partners are asking questions. This kind of publicity has shown that our CEO is human, interrupted Dr. Tariq, one of the younger board members. I've been getting calls all morning from potential investors who are impressed by Sade's honesty and authenticity. Authenticity? Mrs. Fashola laughed coldly. She lied about her identity and manipulated an innocent man. I fell in love, Sade said quietly. I fell in love with someone who saw past my money to who I really am. And when a criminal tried to use that love to blackmail me, I chose honesty over hiding, and nearly destroyed the company in the process, Mr. Ogbonna said. Tariq, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly stood up. May I say something? This is not your place, Mrs. Fashola began. Actually, it is, Sade said, because this is about more than business. This is about what kind of company Adebayo Industries wants to be. Tariq walked to the head of the table. I'm just a gardener. I don't understand corporate finance or international markets, but I understand people. And the woman I fell in love with, both as Kimmy and as Sade, is someone who listens, who cares, who sees value in every person she meets. He looked around the room. She didn't pretend to be poor to mock poverty. She did it because she was drowning in a world where people only saw her bank account. In 2 days of working alongside your staff, she learned more about this company's real impact than some of you have learned in years. That's enough, Mrs. Fashola said. We don't need lectures from. From who? Tariq's voice was calm but steel-edged. From someone who actually knows what it's like to worry about rent, to send money home to family, to dream of opportunities that money can't buy. He turned to Sade. You want to know what I see when I look at her? I see someone who bled trying to do honest work. Someone who listened to fund me's dreams and asked about my mother's health. Someone who's built schools in villages that will never make her a profit and funded scholarships for children whose names she'll never know. The room was completely silent. So yes, Tara continued, she lied about being poor. But you've been lying about something worse. You've been pretending that money is more important than character. And from what I've seen, Sade has more character in her bleeding hands than this entire board has in their bank accounts. Before anyone could respond, the boardroom door burst open. Mr. Adebayo rushed in, followed by Sade's assistant. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said breathlessly, but we have a situation. The International Development Bank just called. They want to meet about increasing their partnership with us by $200 million. They said they're impressed by our CEO's commitment to authentic leadership and social responsibility. The board members stared at him in shock. And that's not all. Sade's assistant added. We've had 12 new partnership requests since yesterday, including 3 from companies that specifically cited your transparency and courage as reasons for wanting to work with us. Mrs. Fashola looked like she'd swallowed something bitter. That's unexpected. Dr. Adelik smiled. Maybe the market rewards authenticity more than we thought. Mr. Agbana cleared his throat. Perhaps we should table this discussion and reconvene when we have more information about the long-term impact. No, Sade said firmly. We're settling this now. I propose a vote of confidence in my leadership. If you don't think I'm fit to run this company, then remove me. But if you do, you'd better have a damn good reason that goes beyond being embarrassed by a love story. The vote was closer than Sade had hoped. 4 in favor of keeping her, 3 against, with 2 abstentions. But it was enough. As the board members filed out, Mrs. Fashola paused at the door. This isn't over, Sade. One good news cycle doesn't erase the risk you've created. When they were alone, Sade slumped in her chair. She's right, you know. This could still destroy everything. Tariq knelt beside her chair. Then we'll build something new, together. You say that now. But what happens when a novelty wears off? When you realize what it really means to be with someone like me? What happens when you realize what it really means to be with someone like me? He countered. When your friends look down on me. When you get tired of explaining our relationship to people who don't understand. They stared at each other across the distance that money and class had created between them. Maybe your mother was right, Tariq said finally. Maybe we're from different worlds. Maybe we are. But even as they acknowledged the obstacles ahead, neither of them could let go of the other's hand. Outside the boardroom window, Lagos pulsed with life. Rich and poor, powerful and powerless, all trying to find their place in a city that promised everything and delivered dreams only to those brave enough to fight for them. Love conquered blackmail, but can it survive reality? When 2 worlds collide, someone has to give up everything they've ever known. Next chapter will test everything you believe about love. Hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to break your heart. 3 weeks after the press conference, Sade stood in Tariq's one-room apartment in Suralere for the first time. The space was smaller than her walk-in closet, but it was clean, organized, and filled with plants that somehow made it feel like a garden sanctuary in the middle of the bustling neighborhood. It's not much, Tariq said, watching her take in the simple furniture, the small cooktop, the single bed that served as both sleeping and seating area. It's beautiful, she said honestly, and it was not because of luxury, but because every item had been chosen with care and purpose. When a billionaire falls in love with a poor man, someone has to make sacrifices. But who gets to decide what those sacrifices should be? Have you ever had to choose between love and the life you've always known? Because what happens next will change everything. They've been dating publicly for 3 weeks now, and the contrast between their worlds had become impossible to ignore. When they went to dinner, Tariq felt uncomfortable in expensive restaurants, while Sade felt out of place in the local spots he loved. Her friends treated him like an exotic curiosity, while his friends assumed she was slumming for entertainment. Tariq, we need to talk, she said, sitting on his bed. He joined her, and she noticed how the mattress dipped under their combined weight. At her penthouse, they could lie on opposite sides of her king-sized bed and barely touch. I've been thinking about what my mother said, about our different worlds. So have I. And Tariq was quiet for a long moment. I love you, Sade, but I'm tired of being your social experiment. The words hit like a physical blow. Is that what you think this is? Last week, you took me to that charity gala. Your friend spent the entire evening asking me questions like I was a museum exhibit. How interesting that you work with your hands. You must have such different perspectives. They weren't trying to get to know me. They were studying me. Sade felt heat rise at her cheeks because she knew he was right. They'll get used to you. Will they? Or will I just become the gardener who got lucky? The poor guy who won the lottery by catching a rich girl's eye. That's not how I see you, but it's how everyone else sees me. And lately, Tariq looked around his small apartment. It's how I'm starting to see myself. Sade's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. Board dinner tonight at 7. You need to be there. Black tie. I have to go, she said reluctantly. Board dinner. Of course you do. Come with me. Tariq gestured to his simple clothes. I don't have a black tie, Sade. I don't even own a suit. I could buy. No. His voice was firm. I won't be your charity case. The silence stretched between them, filled with all the things they couldn't say. Maybe we need some time to think, Sade said finally. Maybe we do. She left Tariq's apartment feeling like she was walking through quicksand. Everything she touched seemed to make things worse. The more she tried to bridge their worlds, the wider the gap became. At the board dinner that evening, Sade sat through conversations about quarterly projections and market expansions, but her mind was with Tariq in his small apartment, probably tending to his plants and wondering if they had a future. You seem distracted, Dr. Adeli commented during dessert. Just tired. Trouble in paradise? Mrs. Fashola asked with barely concealed satisfaction. I heard your gardener boyfriend has been making himself scarce lately. That's none of your business. Actually, it is. When our CEO's personal drama affects company stock prices, it becomes everyone's business. Sade's mother placed a warning hand on her arm, but Sade was done being diplomatic. My relationship doesn't affect my ability to run this company, doesn't it? You've been distracted for weeks. The Henderson deal fell through because you missed 3 crucial meetings. The Shanghai expansion has stalled because you've been too busy playing Cinderella to focus on business. Those deals fell through because you've been prioritizing a fantasy over reality, Mrs. Fashola interrupted. Face facts, Sade. You can't maintain both worlds. Either you're a serious business leader or you're a woman playing dress-up for love. You can't be both. The words stung because there was truth in them. Sade had been distracted. She'd been trying so hard to prove that her relationship with Tariq was real that she'd let some business responsibilities slide. After dinner, Sade sat in her car outside Tariq's building, staring up at his window. The light was on, and she could see his silhouette moving around the small space. Her phone rang. It was Funmi. Miss Sade? I'm sorry to bother you so late. What's wrong, Funmi? It's Tariq. He's been different since you two started having problems. Quiet, Sade. He comes to work, takes care of the gardens, but he doesn't sing anymore. He doesn't joke with us during breaks. Did he say something? He asked me if I thought rich people and poor people could ever really understand each other. When I said no, he just nodded like I confirmed something he already knew. Funmi. Miss Sade, I know it's not my place, but I see how you two look at each other. That's real love. Don't let other people's opinions destroy something real. After hanging up, Sade climbed the stairs to Tariq's apartment. She knocked softly, and when he opened the door, she saw the weariness in his eyes. We can't keep doing this, he said without invitation or in. Doing what? Pretending we can make this work. Your world, my world, they don't mix, Sade. And we're both getting hurt trying to force them together. So that's it? We just give up. We accept reality. Sade felt tears building behind her eyes. The reality is that I love you. The reality is that you make me want to be better than I am. The reality is that for the first time in my life, someone sees me, really sees me, and still chooses to stay. For how long? Tariq's voice was gentle but firm. How long before you get tired of explaining me to your friends? How long before I get tired of feeling like I don't belong in your life? What if we created our own life? Something that's neither your world nor mine, but ours. Ow! Sade took a deep breath. What if I step back from the business? Not permanently, but enough to focus on what really matters. I could start a foundation, work on projects that actually help people instead of just making money. You'd give up your company for me. I'd give up control of my company for us. For a chance to build something meaningful together. Tariq stared at her for a long moment. And if it doesn't work? If you wake up in 6 months and realize you've thrown away your birthright for a fantasy, then at least I'll know I tried. She stepped closer. Tariq, I've been thinking about what you said about me seeing you as a social experiment. You're right. At first, maybe I was trying to prove something to myself. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about proving anything and started being about loving someone. Sade, I know the odds are against us. I know your friends think I'm slumming, and my friends think you're using me. I know the board thinks I've lost my mind, and my mother thinks I'm destroying our family legacy. But I also know that when I'm with you, I'm the best version of myself. Tariq was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. There's something I haven't told you. Sade's heart clenched. What? I got a job offer. Full-time position with a landscaping firm in Abuja. Good salary, room for advancement, a chance to use my night school training. When? Last week. They want an answer by Friday. That's tomorrow. I know. Sade felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. Are you taking it? I don't know. Part of me thinks it would be easier. For both of us. You could go back to your life without having to worry about what people think of us. I could start fresh somewhere new, build something that's entirely mine. And the other part? Tariq reached out and touched her face gently. The other part can't imagine a life without you in it. They stood in his doorway, the noise of surreal continuing around them. Children playing, neighbors talking, life happening in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Come with me, Tariq said suddenly. What? To Abuja. Come with me. Not as the billionaire Sade Adebayo, but as yourself. We could start over somewhere no one knows our story. I can't just abandon everything. Why not? You said yourself you'd step back from the business. What's the difference between stepping back in Lagos and stepping back in Abuja? Sade's mind raced. The idea was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Leave Lagos, leave her company, leave her family and friends, and the entire life she'd built. For love. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow. As Sade drove home, her phone rang continuously, board members, her mother, business partners, all demanding her attention. But for the first time in weeks, she didn't answer. Instead, she drove to the Victoria Island estate and walked through the gardens Tariq had created. Under the moonlight, the flowers and trees seemed to glow with their own light. This was what Tariq did. He created beauty from nothing, made things grow in impossible conditions, found ways to make ordinary spaces extraordinary. Maybe that's what they could do together. Plant something new in unfamiliar soil and tend it until it bloomed. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tomorrow's newspaper will be very interesting. Hope you're ready for the storm. Even from prison, Emeka was still trying to destroy them. Sade looked up at the stars and made a decision that would change everything. The billionaire must choose between love and legacy, but Emeka's final revenge threatens to destroy them both. Will Sade run away with Tariq, or will the past catch up to them first? Next chapter will shock you. Smash that like button and subscribe because this love story is about to take its most dramatic turn. The morning newspaper hit Lagos like a bomb. Billionaire's dirty secrets exposed. The front page featured a photo of Sade leaving Tariq's apartment the night before, with a headline that made her stomach drop. Adebayo heiress's secret slum visits. Romance or rebellion? When you think you've survived the worst scandal, life has a way of proving you wrong. But what Sade finds in today's newspaper will either destroy her forever or set her free. Have you ever had your private life splashed across headlines? Because this revelation will change everything. But it wasn't the photo that terrified her, it was the story inside. Someone had leaked private financial documents showing that Adebayo Industries had been under investigation for tax evasion 3 years ago. The investigation had been dropped, but the timing of the leak was clearly meant to suggest corruption. Worse, the article implied that Sade's relationship with Tariq was a calculated distraction from deeper financial scandals, painting her as a master manipulator who'd used love as a smokescreen. Her phone rang before she finished reading. It was her lawyer. Sade, we have a problem. The stock market opened 20 minutes ago. We're down 30% and falling. How is that possible? Investors are panicking. The newspaper story, combined with rumors about your mental state, has created a perfect storm. We need damage control immediately. What kind of damage control? You need to distance yourself from this relationship publicly. Issue a statement saying you were going through a difficult time after your broken engagement, but you're now focused entirely on business. Absolutely not. Sade, if you don't do something, the company could be finished by market close. Before she could respond, her mother burst into the penthouse. Have you seen the news? Which part? The article questioning my sanity, or the one suggesting I'm a criminal? All of it. Her mother threw the newspaper on the coffee table. The board is meeting in emergency session. They want you removed immediately. Let them try. They don't need to try. Mrs. Fashola has already called for a shareholder vote. If the stock keeps falling like this, they'll have the support they need. Sade's phone buzzed with a text from Tariq. I saw the news. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. She texted back. None of this is your fault. His response came immediately. I took the job in Abuja. I leave tonight. Maybe if I'm gone, the attention will die down. Sade stared at the message, feeling her heart shatter. Even Tariq was abandoning her now. I need to get to the office, she told her mother. Sade, wait. But she was already out the door. At Adebayo Industries headquarters, chaos reigned. Reporters surrounded the building, shareholders were demanding answers, and employees looked terrified about their jobs. Sade pushed through the crowd, ignoring shouted questions, and made it to the executive elevator. In the boardroom, the scene was even worse than she'd expected. All 9 board members were present, along with several major shareholders and her lawyer. The atmosphere was arctic. Sade, Mr. Ogbonna began without preamble, we're calling for your immediate resignation. On what grounds? Bringing the company into disrepute. Erratic behavior. Prioritizing personal relationships over fiduciary responsibilities. Mrs. Fashola slid a document across the table. This is a prepared statement. You'll announce that you're stepping down for personal reasons, effective immediately. And if I refuse, then we'll vote you out anyway, but it will be messier and more public. This way, you maintain some dignity. Sade looked around the room at faces she'd known since childhood. People her father had trusted, people she considered family. None of them met her eyes. You want me to abandon everything my father built because I fell in love with someone you consider beneath me. We want you to choose between personal fantasies and professional responsibilities, Mrs. Fashola replied. Your father would have understood that distinction. My father would have been ashamed of all of you. Dr. Tariq, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. Sade, maybe they're right. Maybe it's time to step back, let things cool down. You could return when. When what? When I've learned my place. When I've given up the only real relationship I've ever had. Before anyone could answer, the conference room door opened. Sade's assistant rushed in, looking panicked. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development. The police want to speak with you, Miss Sade. About what? The leaked financial documents. They think they know who was behind it. 20 minutes later, Sade sat in a police station conference room across from Detective Bello, the same officer who had arrested Emeka. The documents published in today's newspaper were obtained illegally, Detective Bello explained. We've traced the leak to a former board member who was receiving payments from her ex-fiancé. Which board member? Mrs. Fashola. She's been feeding information to Emeka for months, apparently as revenge for being passed over for the CEO position when your father died. Sade felt the room spin. Mrs. Fashola has been sabotaging the company. It appears so. The tax investigation documents were sealed by court order 3 years ago when the case was dismissed. Only someone with board-level access could have obtained copies. What happens now? We arrest Mrs. Fashola for corporate espionage and conspiracy, and you clear your name publicly. An hour later, Sade stood outside the police station as news crews broadcast Mrs. Fashola being led away in handcuffs. The same reporters who had questioned her sanity that morning were now calling her a victim of corporate sabotage. But all Sade could think about was Tariq's text. He was leaving Lagos because he thought their relationship was destroying her life. He was sacrificing his own happiness to protect hers. She called him, but it went to voicemail. She tried again, same result. Finally, she called Funmi. Miss Sade, I was just thinking about calling you. Tariq left for Abuja an hour ago. He what? He said he couldn't stay and watch you lose everything because of him. He asked me to tell you. Funmi's voice broke slightly. He asked me to tell you that loving you was the best thing that ever happened to him, but letting you go was the most loving thing he could do. Sade felt like she couldn't breathe. Which bus station? The motor park in Ojota. But Miss Sade, the bus left. Sade hung up and ran to her car. Traffic in Lagos was always terrible, but somehow it seemed worse as she raced across the city. Every red light felt like torture, every slow-moving vehicle like a personal affront. She called Tariq again and again, but his phone was off. Finally, she called his new employer in Abuja. Mr. Okafor? The man sounded confused. Yes, we hired him. He's supposed to start Monday, but he called this morning and said he was coming early to find housing. Do you have his contact information in Abuja? I'm sorry, but I can't give out personal information about employees. Sade wanted to scream with frustration. She'd lost him. After everything they'd been through, after surviving blackmail and public scandal and family disapproval, she'd lost him because he thought he was protecting her. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Adebayo. Sade, where are you? The emergency board meeting is about to start. With Mrs. Fashola gone and her accusations exposed as lies, we need to address the shareholders immediately. I can't. I have to find Tariq. Sade, listen to me. The stock has rebounded 15% since the news about Mrs. Fashola broke. Investors are calling you a hero for exposing corruption. You could come out of this stronger than ever, but you need to be here now. The company will survive without me for one day. Will it? There are rumors that Fashola was working with outside investors to orchestrate a hostile takeover. If you don't show strength now, you could lose everything your father built. Sade sat in traffic, torn between the business empire that was her legacy and the love that was her future. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Power isn't about what you can control, Sade. It's about knowing when to let go. She made a U-turn and headed back to the office. 2 hours later, Sade stood before a room full of shareholders, board members, and media representatives. She'd rehearsed her speech during the drive back, but now, facing the crowd, she threw away her notes. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, I want to talk to you about love. A murmur went through the crowd. Not romantic love, though that's part of this story. I want to talk about love for this company, love for our employees, love for the work we do and the people we serve. She looked directly into the camera broadcasting live to the city. 3 months ago, I thought I knew what success looked like. I measured it in stock prices and profit margins and board approvals. But I learned something important recently. Success without authenticity is just expensive failure. The crowd was completely silent. Mrs. Fashola and others questioned my fitness to lead this company because I fell in love with someone they considered inappropriate. They suggested that love was a distraction from business, that caring about someone meant I couldn't care about this company. Sade's voice grew stronger. They were wrong. The man I fell in love with taught me to see this company through new eyes. He showed me that our true value isn't in our stock price. It's in the schools we've built, the jobs we've created, the communities we've supported. He reminded me that business is about people, not just profit. She paused, looking around the room. I'm not stepping down. I'm stepping up. We're going to run this company with the same values that my father instilled in me. Honesty, integrity, and care for every person whose life we touch. The applause started slowly but built until the room was thunderous. But as Sade smiled and shook hands with supporters, her heart remained heavy. She'd saved her company, cleared her name, and proven that love could coexist with business success. Now she had to find the man who'd taught her those lessons and convince him to come home. 6 months later, Sade stood in the same garden where she'd first seen Tariq, but now it felt empty despite being more beautiful than ever. The new gardener was skilled and professional, but the flowers seemed to lack the soul that Tariq had given them. Under her leadership, Adebayo Industries had not only recovered but reached new heights. The authenticity revolution she'd sparked had attracted investors who valued ethical business practices. The company's stock had hit an all-time high, and they'd expanded into sustainable development projects across West Africa. Every love story needs an ending, but not every ending is what we expect. After 6 months apart, has Sade moved on, or is true love worth waiting for forever? This is it, the moment that will define everything. But first, let me ask you, do you believe some people are meant to be together no matter what? Drop your answer in the comments. But success felt hollow without someone to share it with. Miss Sade, Funmi appeared beside her, now dressed in a supervisor's uniform. Sade had promoted her to head of staff relations, recognizing her natural leadership abilities. Your mother is here for lunch. Tell her I'll be right in. Also, Funmi hesitated. I have news about Tariq. Sade's heart jumped. What kind of news? My cousin lives in Abuja. She says he's doing well. He got promoted to head landscape designer for the whole company. And Fummi looked uncomfortable. He's seeing someone, a nurse named Amina. They say she's very nice. The words hit Sade like physical blows. She'd held on a hope for 6 months, convinced that what they'd shared was too special to be replaced. But apparently, Tariq had moved on. "Thank you for telling me," she managed. "Miss Sade, are you?" "I'm fine, Fummi. Just give me a minute." After Fummi left, Sade allowed herself exactly 60 seconds to grieve. Then she straightened her shoulders and walked into the mansion to have lunch with her mother. "You look terrible, darling," her mother said without preamble. "Good afternoon to you too, Mama. I'm serious. You've built an incredible business empire, but you look like you haven't slept in weeks." "I sleep fine. When was the last time you went on a date?" Sade nearly choked on her water. "Since when do you want to date? I thought you'd be thrilled that I'm focusing entirely on business." "I was wrong." Her mother's admission was quiet but firm. "I spent so much time worrying about protecting our family's reputation that I forgot what your father actually valued most. Which was your happiness. He always said that success without joy is just a beautiful prison." They ate in silence for a while before her mother spoke again. "There's something I need to tell you. I hired a private investigator." "To do what?" "To find Tariq." Sade's fork clattered against her plate. "Mama, what did you do?" "I wanted to make sure he was safe, that he wasn't struggling financially because of the scandal. And," she paused, "I wanted to understand what made him so special that my daughter would risk everything for him." "And what did you find?" "That he's a remarkable young man. He's using his salary to not only support his family, but to fund a community garden project in Abuja. He volunteers at a local school, teaching children about plant care and environmental responsibility. And he's studying for his landscape architecture certification through evening classes, just like he dreamed. So he's happy. He's successful. That's not the same thing." Her mother reached in her purse and pulled out a folder. The investigator also found these. Inside were photographs of Tariq at various locations around Abuja. In every single photo, he looked handsome and accomplished, but there was something missing in his eyes, the light that had been there when he'd looked at Sade. "There are also these," her mother said, pulling out printed pages. The investigator gained access to his social media accounts. "That's an invasion of privacy." "Look at them, Sade." Reluctantly, Sade examined the printouts. They were posts Tariq had made over the past 6 months, photos of gardens he designed, updates about his work, pictures with friends and family. But what struck her were the captions. Every single one included quotes about love, loss, or second chances. One post from just last week showed a beautiful flower garden with a caption. "Sometimes the most beautiful blooms come from seeds planted in pain, but they still need the right person to tend them." "He misses you," her mother said gently. "He's dating someone else." According to my investigator, Amina is a colleague who's been asking him out for months. He finally said yes 2 weeks ago. They've had exactly one dinner date, and he spent most of it talking about a woman he used to know in Lagos. Hope flickered in Sade's chest, but she tried to suppress it. "It doesn't matter. He made his choice. He left. He left because he thought staying would destroy you. Now you have the chance to show him he was wrong." "Ow!" Her mother smiled. "By going to get him. I can't just show up in Abuja and expect." "Actually, you can. There's a landscape architecture conference in Abuja next week. Your company is one of the sponsors for their sustainable development panel. You have a legitimate reason to be there." Sade stared at her mother in amazement. "You planned this whole thing." "I planned to give you the information you needed to make your own choice. What you do with it is up to you." That night, Sade sat in her penthouse, staring at the peace lily Tariq had given her. It had thrived under her care, growing from a small plant into a lush, blooming specimen. Maybe that was a sign. She picked up her phone and dialed her assistant. "Book me a flight to Abuja for tomorrow morning, and arrange a meeting with the landscape architecture conference organizers. I want to give the opening address." "What should I tell them your topic will be?" Sade looked at the peace lily, then out at the city lights of Lagos. Rebirth and new beginnings. The next morning, Sade flew to Abuja with a speech she'd written and rewritten a dozen times. But as the plane descended toward the capital city, she realized that all her carefully planned words were meaningless. What mattered was whether Tariq would give her a chance to explain. The conference was being held at a luxury hotel downtown. As Sade arrived, she spotted familiar landscaping company logos and banners. Her heart raced as she realized that Tariq's employer was one of the main participants. During the welcome reception, she mingled with conference attendees, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd. Finally, she saw him. Tariq stood near the back of the room, looking handsome in a professional suit, talking animatedly with a group of colleagues. He seemed confident, successful, at ease in his professional environment. But when he laughed at something someone said, Sade noticed it didn't reach his eyes. Before she could approach him, a woman appeared at his side, petite, pretty, wearing a medical conference badge that identified her as Dr. Amina Yusuf. She placed her hand possessively on Tariq's arm and smiled up at him with obvious affection. Sade felt her courage evaporate. What was she doing here? Tariq had moved on, found someone new, built a life that didn't include her. Who was she to disrupt his happiness for her own selfish desires? She turned to leave, but froze when she heard her name being announced. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have with us today one of Nigeria's most innovative business leaders. Please join me in welcoming Sade Adebayo, CEO of Adebayo Industries, who will be giving our keynote address tomorrow on sustainable development partnerships. The applause was enthusiastic, but all Sade could focus on was Tariq's shocked expression across the room. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. Then Amina whispered something in his ear, and he looked away. That night, Sade sat in her hotel room, her keynote speech forgotten, staring at her phone. She'd come to Abuja to fight for love, but seeing Tariq with someone else had reminded her of a painful truth. You can't force someone to love you, no matter how much money you have or how grand your gestures are. Maybe it was time to accept that some stories don't have happy endings. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. When she opened it, her heart nearly stopped. Tariq stood in the hallway, still wearing his conference attire, his eyes filled with the same mixture of love and pain she felt. "We need to talk," he said. She stepped aside to let him in, and they stood facing each other in the middle of her hotel room. 6 months of separation and unspoken words between them. "I didn't know you were coming," he said finally. "I didn't know if I should. You look good, successful, happy. So do you." They were being polite, careful, dancing around everything that really mattered. "I heard about Amina," Sade said, forcing herself to be honest. "I'm happy for you." Tariq's laugh was bitter. "Are you?" "Because I'm not." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been trying to replace you for 6 months, and it's impossible. Amina is wonderful, kind, intelligent, beautiful. Everything I should want. But she's not you." Sade felt tears building behind her eyes. "Then why?" "Because I was trying to do the right thing. You save your company, prove that you could succeed without compromising who you are. I didn't want to be the reason you fell back into old patterns." "What old patterns?" "Choosing love over responsibility. Putting personal happiness ahead of business obligations." Sade moved closer to him. "What if I told you that you were wrong? That losing you taught me the difference between success and fulfillment? That building an empire means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. I'd say you're romanticizing what we had, and I'd say you're afraid of what we could have." They stared at each other, the tension crackling between them like electricity. "I have something for you," Sade said, pulling a small wrapped package from her purse. Tariq opened it to find a simple silver key. "It's to a house," she explained, "in Abuja. I bought it last month, before I knew about Amina. It has a large garden that needs someone to design it. Someone who understands that the most beautiful things grow from authentic foundations." "Sade, I'm not asking you to choose between me and your new life. I'm asking you to choose between hiding from love and embracing it. The house is yours either way, but I'm hoping." She took a shaky breath. "I'm hoping you'll let me tend the garden with you." Tariq looked at the key, then at her. "What about your business? Your responsibilities in Lagos?" "I can run the company from anywhere. We have offices in Abuja now, part of our expansion into sustainable development. I could relocate, be closer to the projects that matter most." "You'd move here?" "For me, I'd move anywhere for us." Tariq was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his own phone and made a call. "Amina? It's Tariq. I'm sorry, but I can't see you again. There's someone else, and I need to see if we can make it work. Yes, I know it's sudden. I'm sorry. After he hung up, he looked at Sade with eyes full of hope and fear. I broke up with a wonderful woman for you. This better be worth it. It will be. We will be. How can you be sure? Sade moved closer, close enough to touch his face. Because we've already survived the worst. Public scandal, family disapproval, blackmail, separation, doubt. And we're still here. Still choosing each other. I never stopped loving you, Tariq whispered. I never stopped believing in us. When they kissed, it felt like coming home after a long, difficult journey. Outside the hotel window, Abuja sparkled in the darkness, full of possibility and new beginnings. 6 months later, Sade stood in the garden of their Abuja home, watching Tariq put the finishing touches on a landscape design that had taken them months to complete together. The space was a perfect blend of structure and wildness, luxury and simplicity, like their relationship. What do you think? He asked, wiping soil from his hands. I think it's perfect. We're perfect, even when we argue about where to plant the roses. Especially then. Tariq pulled her close, and as they stood surrounded by the beauty they'd created together, Sade realized that her father had been right about power. It wasn't about controlling outcomes or forcing your will on the world. Real power was knowing when to let go of everything you thought you wanted and trust that love would show you what you actually needed. Mrs. Okafor, Tariq said, using the name she'd taken when they married in a simple ceremony 3 months earlier. Yes, Mr. Okafor, are you ready for our next adventure? Sade looked around at their garden, their home, their life built on truth instead of pretense, on love instead of convenience. With you, I'm ready for anything. As the sun set over Abuja, casting golden light over the flowers they planted together, Sade and Tariq proved that sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that grow from the most unlikely soil, watered with honesty, tended with patience, and strong enough to bloom in any season. And that's how a billionaire learned that the richest treasure isn't money. It's finding someone who loves you for who you truly are. Did this story restore your faith in true love? Drop a comment below and hit that subscribe button for more incredible love stories that will make you believe in happy endings. What would you risk for love? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video if Sade and Tariq's journey touched your heart. The end. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey of love, truth, and second chances. If you enjoyed The Billionaire's Secret Love, make sure to subscribe for more amazing stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. What did you think of Sade and Tariq's ending? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads.